Thank you for joining me for Pigeon Pose this morning. So Ekapada Rajakapotsana is Pigeon Pose. It's a very long Sanskrit name, and I used to think to myself, I don't really like pigeons at all. But they're quite tenacious, and they're kind of like a little family when they all hang out together. And some of the pigeons make the loveliest noises. So you just got to listen out and find the beauty of the pigeon somewhere. Anyway, so let's get into our pigeon pose this morning. There's quite a number of variations that we can work on in this space. So there's a couple of ways to come into pigeon pose. So starting from downward facing dog, tucking the toes, lifting up, we can bring the right knee to the right elbow, find a little bit of a shuffle around there, drop the knee down that elbow, and that gives you the alignment. And the knee actually wants to sit outside of the hips, so the knee should sit just outside of the hands if you have your hands underneath your shoulders. Now you can see my back leg from here. I'm trying to keep my back leg parallel to the edge of the mat. So the reason we do this is so that we can square up and line up the hips so that we can keep square to the mat. So keeping my foot up just allows me to make that adjustment. I can drop the knee down, uncurl the toes, and pop myself back here. So there's a lot of discussion around whether the knee or the shin should be parallel to the front section of the mat. I'm an advocate of it's completely up to your hips and your level of flexibility. So whether you're pointing the toe back here or flexing the toe, it's completely up to you. And what I do want you to do though is lift up and square the hips. So take a little bit of a moment to adjust where you're at. So this is the first port of call. What we want to do is find that depth in the posture where we're opening the hips and working deep into the piriformis in that right hip. I want you to take an inhale breath and lift up here, so you're expanding the heart space towards the sky. And then as you exhale, you can take the elbows down to the mat, lengthening and telescoping the ribs away from the hips, and allowing those words, the word surrender, to permeate your practice here. So if this right hip is a little bit off the ground, and I'll demonstrate this on the left in a moment, what we want to do is grab a block and just place that under there. So as we said before, blocks aren't a sign of weakness, they're a sign of giving your body the ability to release into a posture and take a little bit of the pressure off so that you can actually experience that feeling of surrender. So don't go fast through this posture either. Allow the body the opportunity to open up so that you can find a little bit of depth here. And you can stay and breathe into the posture. And then walk the hands back. Tucking the toes, lifting up, coming on up to downward facing dog. So the next way to get into this is I'm going to come from all fours, so in my tabletop posture. If you're not feeling like popping this into a massive transition during a vinyasa, you can then slide the left knee towards that left ankle. So we've left that right foot in the back there, and you can take a peek behind you and just make sure that that left foot is, or left leg is parallel to your mat, and then wriggle that left foot under and around here, dropping the hips behind. So I'm just going to show you the placement of the block with my trusty blue block here, trusty blue travel block. Dropping down, checking your alignment. So if the hip isn't reaching, this is where the block comes in to play. And so that actually feels quite nice. And you can make some adjustments here, whatever's going to work for you. Make sure that this left knee is sitting out of the hip. So again, you can check that alignment with your shoulders, and you can see where this knee is sitting, and we're going to drop those hips down towards the earth. So feel that lovely opening through the chest before you come down into your Ekapada Rajakapotsana. Lifting through the chest, inhale, look towards the sky, Exhale, telescope the ribs away from the hips. Draw the chest down and as far away from the leg as you can. Then you can allow the hands to slowly move forward. And you can even take this lovely posture with hands in Namaskara behind the head. It's like an ultimate form of surrender, just here. And you can stay here for as long as you like, up to 15 breaths, 20 breaths. If you're in a yin practice and you're going deep into this posture, you can stay in this posture, for as long as you like, a couple of minutes, but really working with that word surrender. And perhaps even the actual word softness, and working into that. Eventually walking your hands back, tucking the toes, and lifting back up to your tabletop. So if you want to go a little bit deeper into this posture, there are quite a few variations here, and you can use a strap, and we might delve into those a little bit later. But you can actually come into mermaid pose from here. So I'm just going to use this technique of sliding that knee forward, finding my alignment here and shuffling down. Then you bend into this back leg, and this can be your first port of call. You don't always have to get into every posture every time. So I'm really giving that quadricep a good stretch here, and also stretching through the hip flexors, using this right hand for balance. Then as you start to open up and deepen into the pose, you can hook that left arm around to the left knee and eventually opening up into your mermaid and staying here for as long as you find fabulous. Exiting out as gracefully as possible, hands back down to the mat, tucking the toes and coming up into your tabletop. And you might even like to take a few rounds of cat-cow here just to recalibrate and stabilize. Dropping the hips down, and you can try that on the other side when you're ready. So thank you for joining me on this tutorial for Pigeon, and enjoy this really relaxing, deep hip opening and heart opening posture.